Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Mike here, and welcome to this next lesson in the 3D modeling series where I'm going to be using Blender 3D to create a very simple humanoid or human-like character. Now, I would recommend that you watch some of the other introduction Blender series that I have here because those might be a little bit easier to follow along. That said, if it's your first time using Blender, I'm going to be calling out all the keys, all the shortcuts, and you'll see some of them show up on the screen, so you should be able to reasonably follow along. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so where I'm going to start here is just using Blender 3D. Again, it might be easy if you have a big screen to go to preferences and sometimes just to scale things up here on the resolution so you can see some of the keys easier and so on. Now, some basic keys to move around: use the middle click of the mouse to move around, middle click and the shift key moves or pans your screen, and alt and the mouse key will move you around and snap you to different views, which can be useful. And I also have a number keypad, so I can hit things like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, for example, which helps me move around. And you'll notice that view changes in the top left corner here. So 9 is the user perspective, 1 is the front orthographic view, orthographic being a view that doesn't have perspective, 2, again, back to the user perspective, 3 to the right, 4, 5, etc., etc. So some of these views will be useful for today. Now, some other things that are going to be useful for you to know is just how to move or navigate this model, which again I'll explain, and in the top right to change some of the views. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this on right now. And you can see the shortcut here, alt+z, or just clicking this button here will give me an X-ray view. That way, if I hit, say, 9 here to get my perspective here, or just use the mouse click to move around, you can see that I can see through the object. That's going to be useful for us today to create our model. Okay, so some other basics, and then we'll go ahead and get started, is if I click on an object, I can delete it by hitting the delete key. Ctrl+z undoes stuff. If I click on some of these other objects like a camera, which we don't need, I can move these around. For example, if I just select this object and I just want to move it, I could hit G, and that will allow me to move this camera object here. And then you could just position it with your mouse. Now I'll talk about some other ways to move things around, and I think you'll pick up on it anyway. But we don't need this camera in the scene. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I'll leave the light here. So if you want, go ahead and practice by moving to a front view and then just hitting G. And then you'll see that I'm moving this on a plane here in the front here. So that's handy here. So I'm just on the Z and X plane here. And then if I use my mouse to move around here, you'll notice the Y position didn't change, which is moving in this direction, left and right. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and start modeling. And what we go ahead and do is select this object here. I'm going to hit Tab, which toggles the edit mode or object mode. Again, I'm just focused on this object, so I can't click on this light here. If I hit Tab again to go into the object mode, then I can select the light or the cube and go back and forth. But we want to actually model this cube and create some geometry. So again, I'll hit Tab. And right now I'm able to see that there are some vertices here. Again, I'm middle clicking to sort of move around, but you can click on the individual vertices here. And then you could hit G, for instance, to move them around. If I right click, it'll undo that change. If I left click, it will preserve it. And then of course, Ctrl+z will undo that change. Okay, now what I'm going to want to do for this tutorial, since we're building a humanoid, which is essentially a sort of mirrored shape, is to just essentially create half of this shape here. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do at this point is I'm going to hit 2 to go in the edge select mode. And again, if you can't remember these shortcuts, I'll just point them off in the top left corner here for selecting vertices, edges here, for example. So now you can see I can select edges, or faces here, again, in the top left corner, where I can select the entire face. Now, a little nice trick is I can select all of the faces and then just click the vertex mode, and then all of a sudden, if I hit G, I've got these 4 vertices selected. Okay, so I want to hit 2, so I'm working with edges, and for this object, I want to do a what's called a cut. So I'll do Ctrl+R, and you can see as I move my mouse around, it's essentially going to do a cut or a sort of loop around this object here and create new geometry. And this is one of the ways that we can do it. So I want to create it along the center here, and then you can move it around here. I want it to be in the middle, so let me just right click and then do a left click there, and then you should have something like this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hit 1, so I'm selecting vertices, and again in this X-ray mode, which is helpful, again, which I hit this or alt+z, so you can sort of toggle that on or off. I want to actually delete this geometry. So go ahead and hit delete and delete the vertices, and then you'll be left with half of a shape like this. Okay, so while there is a hole here, that's not going to be a problem for us because again, we're going to mirror this geometry. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go here on this toolbar here towards the right of your screen, and there's something that looks like a little wrench here, because I can think about that as modifying or doing something. So go ahead and click on that wrench, click add modifier, and then somewhere here you'll find mirror, which is under generate because we're making some geometry. Go ahead and hit mirror, and you're going to see this cube is essentially back in place. But what's neat is now if I select one of the vertices, hit G and move it, you'll see the other side is moving with it. It's mirrored here. So again, this makes it easier for us to make changes, so we only have to make changes in one place rather than worrying about, selecting things on both sides of our object here. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and start modeling our humanoid here. I'm going to hit 2 to go to the edge mode, and I want to do a few of those cuts again here. So I'll hit Ctrl+R, and if you hit 2, that'll do 2 cuts after it. So again, let's just practice that. Select an edge, hit Ctrl+R. You could hit 6, and that'll create 6 equally spaced cuts if you want to do that. But let's just do 2 right now. Ctrl+R and 2, and I'll left click, and I don't need to move them around. And this is what's going to sort of start the base of our head. Let's go ahead and do that on this side as well. So let's just go ahead and select some edges here. I'll go ahead and select all these, Ctrl+R, and I'll hit 2, and we've got something that looks like this. Okay, so let me just give you a little zoom like this. And again, if it's easier for you to do these sort of one at a time, feel free to do so. It doesn't have to be an exact science. You don't have to follow this exactly as you're learning. In fact, I'm not a professional 3D modeler, but I can at least teach you a few things here. So I'm going to go hit 1 for the vertex mode, and sometimes if you want to select multiple vertices, you can click on one and hold shift, or hit shift and deselect them. But another useful tool is to hit B for box select, and then I can select a bunch of vertices at a time here. Okay, so you might want to orient yourself so you can select all these faces. And our goal is just going to be to sort of round out the head here. And again, that can be useful to use some of these different views here. 1, which is facing forward, 3, which is facing to the right of us. And if you want, you can sort of move around, but I'm going to do 3 here and just hit G, which helps us move vertices. Now, G lets us move vertices in any direction. So if I hit GG, that'll keep it sort of aligned on an axis here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of select some of these vertices here. I'll do the same thing for what's going to be the back of the head. Hit GG and sort of move these a little bit closer like this here. Okay, so again, it doesn't have to be an exact science, but let's go ahead and just kind of move some things around. Let's select some a vertex here, maybe another vertex here. I'll go back in that 3 mode, and this is going to be our chin here. So let's just kind of move this down like this. Let's start rounding out the head here, something like that. I'll hit G and kind of move these here. Let's do the same for the top vertices. Hit 3, move here, and let's kind of round out the head here. If I select these vertices here, I'll hit 1, so we're facing the front. Kind of move things here. Let's go ahead and do that again for the bottom here. I'll hit 1, just kind of moving things out and creating some sort of face shape here. Again, it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but you can just kind of approximate what a human head looks like. Move these in a little bit, circle around. Let's go ahead and make the nose sort of here. 3, I'll move this out a little bit and sort of down here. Maybe for this part, let's kind of start moving some of these in here, inwards a little bit. I'll select this vertex here, just kind of moving things around. You can kind of see a face shape that's going to start coming here. This will be the back of the head. I'll move this here, and we're going to eventually extrude a neck from here. But let's just kind of keep rounding things out to give us, something that looks human-like, or maybe even just like a helmet of a character or something, because we're not going to get into full detail with all the eyes and stuff, but just something reasonable here. And the more you play around with this stuff, the more you tend to create figures with more detail and sort of get them in a state where you like them. So again, you can play around with this all day, but we'll just get a approximation of a humanoid here. So, some of these features are a little bit tight here. So again, I'm just basically hitting G and selecting around here as I move. And again, as you're doing this, you might want to toggle with Alt+Z the X-ray. So again, if you select a bunch of stuff, like let's try here, that'll only select the things that are in view here. So you might want to toggle that off and on with Alt+Z, or just hitting this here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just sort of shift from this mode. And, this looks sort of reasonable here. Actually, I probably want to select this here. Let's go into 3. We can kind of leave this like here. Maybe put this out here. Maybe these would be more like where the eyes would sort of form under here, and then the nose and so on. But this is something that's looking, again, pretty reasonable for a head here. We might want to round it out or add hair or other features or whatever. But let's go ahead and just leave it here. So now what I'm going to start doing is forming the neck of the character here. So in order to do that, I'll hit 3 and just select this face here. And let's go ahead and just hit 1 here, and I'll hit E so that I extrude down. Now we can see that this is sort of separated here. So let's actually flatten this out. So one way that we can do this that I know of, there isn't a flatten sort of tool here, but we can hit S for scaling, and on the Z, and then just 0, and that'll essentially flatten things out here. Okay, now I got a little bit of weird geometry here, so I might want to move down here. So G and then Z will move me straight down the Z axis here. Okay, so now I've got something like this. Now this is a pretty thick neck here, so I might want to move things around. Hit 2 to go to edge mode. Let's go ahead to the front view, hit G, and kind of move things in a little bit here. And again, if I want to move on a certain axis, I can kind of use this as my guide, right? So I'll hit G and then the x-axis, and then I'll just slide things on the x-axis. Okay, so that's a more reasonable neck here. So let's go ahead and hit 3 for the face mode, and I'll hit 1 just to get a view, and I'll extrude down again, and just kind of approximate. This isn't going to be an anatomically correct human here, but this is going to start forming sort of the base of the torso. And maybe as you do this, you might want to hit 1 to select some of the vertices, 3 to get the right view, and maybe just kind of move these around a little bit so the geometry is not too boxy here. Yeah, I can kind of move these. Yeah, something like that is usually fine. Okay, let's go ahead and move this here just a little bit out for the chin here. And again, I probably want to move G and then Y just so it's along the Y-axis, and then G and then Z so that it'll move up and down. And you can see Blender3 that I'm using now does a good job of providing this sort of blue guideline up and down as we're doing this. Okay, so now that looks a little bit better here. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and continue inform the torso here. So I'll go ahead and hit 3 here to select faces, 1 here, just to get sort of a scale here, E to go down, and then I'll select this face here, 1 again, and I'll just start creating the sort of torso here. However wide you want your character to be, something like that seems fine. And I probably want to hit 2, hit 1 here to kind of move around. Let's do G, X to move along the x-axis, and again, the neck should sort of come out a little bit to maybe show some muscle on this character. 2 to select edges, G, and then move on the z-axis, maybe move these up a little bit so we get a little bit nicer anatomy here. Now, what I'm going to do here from the shoulders, hit 3, and actually let me finish off the torso because it's a little bit of a bigger part here. So I'll do 1, then I'm going to extrude down here about halfway here. Let's go ahead and do the full torso. And then we can add some cuts to add definition if we want here. So I'll hit 2 here. I'll select just one of these edges here, Ctrl+R, and I'll probably want to just create a cut here. So let me go ahead and do this again, Ctrl+R. I like that here, so I'll accept and just kind of move it up here. Okay, because eventually we might want to move the torso in a little bit or whatever. But let's go ahead and hit the arms, get those extruded. So I'll go ahead and view 1, extrude outwards here. Something like this, whatever the length of your character's arms are going to be. And then we can kind of start shaping things again here. So I'll select this edge here. G, move on the Z-axis down a little bit, maybe even up a little bit here. 2, G, and then Z, kind of move up here. And for the arms, again, if I select one of these edges, I can do R. And let's just go ahead and create this sort of elbow here. Ctrl+R, and then I'll accept this, move it something like this. And again, you can sort of form your definition here with your character here. So with the front view, G and then Z, maybe up a little bit. Maybe what we want to do here, I'll hit 3 here, and then S to scale here. And, we can kind of form an elbow here. So let's go ahead and hit G and then move on the Y-axis to kind of bring this back a little bit. We probably want to add a little bit of definition to our character here on the torso. So let's select a few of these faces here. 3 for our right view, G, and then Y. Just kind of bring things out a little bit. And on the back, let's actually just move this vertex here. And again, we're going to have to shape things a little bit, but G and then Y to move on the Y-axis. And we'll start to shape the back a little bit here. Then we can round out the arms a little bit, just bringing these in a tiny bit. Now, the reason I put the arms just sticking straight out is typically if you wanted to go and rig and animate this character, there's certain positions that work better. In fact, we might even want to angle these arms downwards a little bit to get even better animation because the arms need to be able to move and you don't want the geometry to move too much. So that's the idea here. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with this character here. Let's go ahead and just model the hand. So I'll select this face here. We need the wrists. So I'll create a little extrude here, and then the actual hand here. I'm just going to move out to whatever I think the length should be. And then I'm going to scale it down a little bit. So if I kind of orient myself here, hit S and scaling on the Z-axis. Let's flatten things out a little bit here. And maybe scale a little bit on the Y just to bring things in a little bit. And let's go ahead and do another cut here, actually. Ctrl+R, because I want to model the thumb here. And I'm going to do this really cheaply. I hit 3 here and extrude the thumb out, something like that. Scale it down a bit. And I'll just hit G, and let's move this on the X-axis out, something like that. And that's a good enough hand for the purpose of this tutorial here. All right, so we got this character here. Now the actual torso, let's bring this in just a little bit. So I'm going to just select this face here, to G and then X, kind of bring things in just to get some definition. And again, you can add more vertices and kind of round this out a little bit here. I'm happy enough with this, but let's go ahead and create the sort of belt area. So I'm going to do an extrusion here. Let's go ahead and extrude for maybe the character's belt. And then let's go ahead and extrude again, and we'll start creating the legs and so on in the midsection. Now for the midsection, I'm going to, let's go ahead and do just one more extrusion down here, something like that. And then I'll go ahead and just kind of move along the y-axis here, and just kind of round things out here. I'm going to bring this edge in a little bit here, because we're going to actually just extrude from this leg here. So I go ahead and do G, and then move on the x-axis. Now some other things, just give this character something more interesting might be to come in here and give them sort of a belt here. So let's go ahead and just see what that looks like if I hit E and then sort of extrude out here. What I actually want to do is hit alt+E, and then I can kind of extrude along the normals, and that'll kind of give me a bump here. If you just hit the regular E, you don't get that. So I don't know, maybe this character's got a belt or something like that. That's a little bit too much here. Let me do alt+E, which gives you the other ways that you can extrude. And if I want, I can specify just a number here, like 0.5 or something. Sorry, 0.1 here. That looks better, and I'll hit enter, and then left click, and that'll create the character's belt here. Okay, so again, you could play around with this. There's more we could do on the elbows and so on, but let's just give them that here. Okay, and then what I'm going to go ahead and do is extrude the leg. Again, I'm just going to come straight out here for about however tall I want the character to be. Something like that is reasonable. Actually looking at this, let me hit 2 and add a little bit more definition to the torso. Let me kind of slide this down and kind of bring some of these features down here. So again, you can kind of play with some of these things here just to see how they look. Even better if you can model against a sort of anatomically correct character here, just to give, make things look a little bit more realistic here. In fact, I might want to sort of flatten this geometry and so on a little bit better, but that's okay. So anyway, for this character here, let's go ahead and create another loop cut here for the knee. I'll create one there. Ctrl+R again for another cut. And we have something like this. Let's go ahead and raise. So hit this here, G, and then I want to move along the Z-axis. Oops. Let's see, let me just select this G and then Z. Looks like I created some extra geometry, so let me just Ctrl+Z a few times on accident. There we are. Select this, G, and then Z. There we go. Kind of move things up a little bit here, G, and then Z here, just to sort of shape the figure more realistic here. Some things you could do is actually subdivide this character and add some more detail, but again, I like just making these simple sort of cuts here. So let's go ahead and just kind of taper this character a little bit here. So an easy way to do that, so hit 3, select a face. Let's kind of scale this in here. And let's do the same here. I'm just going to select all these faces, maybe go to my X-ray mode, hit B for the box select. Oops, let's go ahead and just select all these here, shift select. And then I can hit S and just kind of scale things inwards. Okay, and then we got some knees here, and again, we might want to really actually shape these better. Alt+Z to get rid of the X-ray mode. I'll hit 3 to select a face, 1, so I'm a little bit more level here. E to extrude the ankles, extrude again for the feet, select the front face, hit 3 to move to the right, and let's actually extrude the foot here. I'm out here, select the edge here, 3, G and then Z to move down an axis, G and then Y to sort of pull the foot back. Actually, I should pull the back foot a little bit, 3G and then Y to move along the Y-axis. And just to give a little bit extra, select here. We could do a ring cut around the foot, and just sort of bring that out a little bit. So hit S to sort of scale it and just make the feet look a little bit more interesting here. Now I probably want to tighten this character up a little bit, but let's just go ahead and see how it is. So I'm going to hit Tab, as we learned, go out of edit mode, and then I'll hit N here, to transform our character. Now again, I can hit G to sort of just move them around. I want to move them up here somewhere. So for the location, I'll hit 0, 0 for the Y, and then the Z, I approximately want them on the ground here. So when I export them, it's just a little bit easier to move them. So I'll hit G, and then on the Z axis, I'm just going to kind of look here and line things up approximately where it is. So G and then Z, and let's just put that bottom right on this green line here. Okay, so just looking at this, this looks pretty good. Maybe I want to move the light around here, maybe in front of the character or something. And then I can play around with these different rendering options here, just so you can see the character here. Let's hit the this one here. I think we'll actually do a render, so you can kind of see what the character looks like in real time rendered. G, if I've got the light selected, you can see the different shadows and so on based on where the light is. But yeah, I think this is pretty good, right? You might want to add more definition to the back and so on, but depending on what you're going for, this is a good enough character. You could add some hair. Again, maybe this is a helmet or something, but this should serve as a good enough low poly character, and hopefully is an interesting or a good enough introduction to 3D modeling for you. So let's just go ahead and get one little circle around of this character here, so you can see what they look like, and a tab here so you can see the actual geometry. Okay, and maybe again with the X-ray. Okay, and again, as you do more models, you'll figure out how to improve on this. Once you get into animation and so on, you'll figure out does it animate well and so on. So folks, with that said, I hope this was a useful tutorial. I hope this is something fun to follow and you get to learn a little bit more Blender. I've been inspired by many different 3D tutorials that I've been able to find online, so I hope this one helps you. I've been doing this for quite some time with different 3D tools. So depending on wherever you are in your journey, keep practicing, keep having fun with it, and learning 3D stuff is really, really great. So with that said, make sure you like and subscribe so you get to see the other 3D tutorials or programming tutorials I do, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, folks.